Yes. Okay, done. It's going now. We are live. And thank you, Joel, for joining me today. In today's episode, we are also live in LinkedIn. First time we're doing a podcasting through LinkedIn, so I'm very excited. And I couldn't have a better guest than you because you're used to the spotlights. But without further ado, let me introduce you to my listeners. In today's episode, I'll be speaking with Joel Van der Molen, a multi-award-winning director and filmmaker. Joel is best known for his documentary films, The Magnificence of You and Living My Illusion, in which he reflects his own life experience. Joel is CEO of WonderCon Films and winner of 27 Global Film Awards, and is featured in Sovereign Global Magazine Sovereign Global Magazine and Film the Magazine. He has spoken at the Commonwealth for International Women's Day, London Business Network, the London Business Show, and twice for Inspired Stage. Joel currently lives in England and travels globally. His native language is English and he speaks very good Spanish. Joel, welcome to the episode.
Thank you, Levent. Pleasure to be on the air with you. And it is my first podcast live on LinkedIn.
As they say, there's first time for everything. even for you. I've known you for 6-7 years now. And when we first met, you were running a very successful telecoms company. In fact, that's how we were your customer. And so can you tell me your entrepreneurial journey and where you are now? You know, what was your journey?
Yeah, sure. Well, I grew up at a very young age in the southeast of England, and I went to normal schools, but then after taking a year and traveling to Australia, thinking I don't really want to go to do any work, I will just travel around the world. But then I had this idea, it's like I always wanted to be an actor. I think from the age of 5, I really wanted to act because there were so many different things I wanted to do. And I thought, what is the job that you get to do so many different things? And it's being an actor. You can be a doctor, you can be a scientist, you can be a superhero. So I had always had this calling and this love of acting. And that led me to being very successful in secondary school and in loving being on stage. It led me after my tour of Australia to come back to London, and I was fortunate enough to get into one of the top drama schools. And I spent 3 years there. And after that, I became an out-of-work actor.
Okay.
So life was sort of...
Which is, I suppose, quite common for actors. People who are very passionate in acting, but finding a employment or job, is a I suppose it's a different story.
Yeah, and I sort of suddenly you come out of drama school and then you realize that mum and dad can't get you the lead role in a Hollywood film, and so you start to question your ability, and you understand the kind of how competitive this business is. I think you always know, but when you really love what you do, I think you find a way, perhaps. And there is a lot of people who say, well, don't bother getting into acting. I mean, just everybody wants to be an actor. Everybody wants to be so-called famous. Yeah. But if you really love what you do, I believe you find a way.
True.
And so, yeah, but after becoming an out-of-work actor, I did what a lot of actors do and artists do, which is work in hospitality. I am telling you, we must have the most talented hospitality staff in London and New York and LA, because they're full of creative geniuses. Not so much now that the industry's at a point where it's not open. But yeah, and it was there that I started to get older, as tends to happen to people, and then I changed direction and moved into telecommunications. Didn't take me long before I realized that I could do this and make money at it, because I was looking around me and seeing, well, how are these people affording everything? They've got nice lifestyles, they've got Ferraris, they're going out to dinner in nice places, and there I am, when maybe some of my friends had, moved up the ladder of normality, as it may be coined. So I moved into telecommunications and then realized I can set up a business doing this. And then I met you, Levent.
Yeah. Yeah. And as I said, you were running a successful business, but it must, the acting must have been the passion and the real thing that you want to do. So when you had an opportunity, did you say that's it and you exited the business? And how did, if you take us back to that period or that time that you made a decision that, okay, that's it, I'm selling this business and I'm going to do my passion. So how can you just take us back to that?
I think I had an early midlife crisis, or a pre-midlife crisis, in the respect of I'm not somebody who could have a normal life. It wasn't to go to school, get married, have kids, get a job, get a cat, get fat, get into debt. I just felt that, there was something more I had to give. I guess that was the feeling coming inside of me. And so my creativity, I do believe that our voice, our genius, that voice inside that we all have that's speaking to us will look for opportunities to bring that vision, that idea, that calling to the forefront. So through the telecommunications company, I started creating my own videos for phone systems.
And you had your instructions in a video and nicely recorded voice. It was your voice, and so it was like, oh, that's professionally done. Obviously you put your passion into recording your instruction videos. Yeah.
I did, and then we did sort of animation, how-to videos, and very successful phone videos that started getting lots of views, like hundreds of thousands of views, because there were two famous brands I made them for, which was Yealing, not so well known. I think they're sitting on your desk, those phones, and Polycom. And I was narrating them because I knew how to use them. But what this was ultimately doing was helping my customers to use them, because I would go into places and, if you had new staff turn up at your office, you would have to either get someone in to train them how to use the phone or just let them get on with it. But with us, you could say, here's the videos, here's how to do a transfer, here's how to put somebody on hold, here's how to handle 4 different calls at once, all these things. And so it benefited a lot of businesses to get the maximum value out of their system. And for me, it was just like, because I could exhaust myself repeating myself 20 times a day. My support staff repeating themselves 20 times a day on how to help people use the phones, especially now when people are remote working. So it's even become more important for those corporate style videos that we do. Where was I?
Doing the videos, even in when you were running your telecoms company, you were doing videos, instructions, and you were really putting your passion into that. Yes. What made me really sort of impressed was that you exited your business, and you then, I know a lot of people exit their businesses for good reasons. They worked hard, they build it up, and they say, now it's time for me to exit the business, and after a few months they say, God, what have I done? What am I going to do now? After the first initial period of doing stuff is wears off, what do I do? But for you, I take it was a totally different scenario. You exited your business and you started WonderCon Films, or were you doing it at the same time? Because what was the transition like?
I did start the documentary Living My Illusion whilst still having the telecommunications.
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And, it continued. But, there's certain events happened which meant that, the industry started changing and my focus was on other things that I valued, more. As much as I loved the business, and you're right, you can look back and think, what did I do? Maybe I did sell 30 years too early because you don't make enough money to retire, to hang your hat up and say, oh, that's it. I just live in, I'll travel the world for the rest of my years. Yeah. But I wasn't there, so it was quite early to do something like that. So obviously I knew that this would only be fun for a short time.
Yeah. But don't you think that, so sorry if I interrupted you, but don't you think that creativity is great, but, like earning a living and doing stuff that drives creativity? Did you have an experience like that?
Yeah, that I believe is one of the greatest things about my life, if you like, is that I found something where I love what I do, and it gives me, such a joy in my life, because I would sit down and write, and I'd get so excited and creative, and I need that release. Or you're on a film set, and I used to say, all I want is just to be on a film set from 6 a.m. to midnight every day.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest joy. And I think a lot of filmmakers may say the same, but I wasn't getting that in another industry. Yeah, and I wasn't experiencing that among many people who would work in that industry. I would go into a telecommunications summit, one of these exhibitions type places, and you could just feel the energy that many people who were there didn't really want to be there.
Yeah.
And you don't get that in film. With the people I work with, they're happy to do 14-hour days. Because the camera guy loves everything about what he does. The sound guy is so enthused by being a part of the production and his sound design, and he loves it. And all the way down to everybody who is starting out, the person loading the clapperboard, the focus pullers, the lighting engineers, and of course, the actors, directors, producers. They all have a calling to do this, and they really enjoy it. Somebody said to me, they said, the worst day working in film is a better day than in any other job. According to people who work in film, of course. But it could be anything. I think if you are able to listen to yourself and find your calling, you are one of the luckiest people alive.
Yeah. No, I liked it actually, because I think doing what is creating that passion and drives that passion is so important, and congratulations for you to take that decision, like you said, exit the business in early days and channel your energy into what you love to do. And so what was it like to be under the spotlight? Because I remember when you did the Living My Illusion, you traveled to New York. Was it New York? It was the United States, and you won an award. But I remember at the time when you traveled, you didn't know whether you would get the award or not. And what was it like? How did it feel that you heard it and you were under the spotlight at the time?
Yeah, it was an interesting journey, because originally I had the idea to make a documentary about life coaching and using myself as the subject, and it became a very focused on my life and what I was going through at that time. But I was going through many, personal development style journeys to help me understand who I was. And sometimes you have to have a crash or something to happen to really awaken you. Out of great adversity comes a great blessing. So, and I was documenting that, and how to really, listen to myself, which I was learning. And then, of course, Living My Illusion took us into this new direction of film and documentaries, so to say, as we submitted to many global film festivals around the world and seeing, okay, we think we've got something that's pretty good. It's very truthful. And I really strongly believe in the message, and the response from people has been overwhelming. One side or the other, people tend to really think that you are a hero or a complete twat, for want of a better word. But the responses were definitely interesting, and it did start in New York. I think we were there. We had a film festival there, the New York Independent Film Festival, and where we were the opening night film. So that was fun. We had a big audience, and again met with a lot of mixed reactions, because it's quite controversial what we're doing, what we put on screen. All my work is kind of always pushing the boundaries, but it also opens up. What I did in Living My Illusion is I said what my ego doesn't like to hear. I see. That's interesting. Yeah. And I don't like it. Nobody likes that. No. And so I was speaking about things in Living My Illusion that I hadn't even really had a conversation with myself about, let alone speak to anyone else about, for fear of embarrassment or shame or judgment. And that's what goes on a lot. We live in a country where people are, shamed for their acts and behaviors, and judged. We all tend to judge people, unaware of what's really truly going on behind the masks that we wear in society. And so it was a very difficult thing, but those are the important things to talk about, I thought. Those are the things that are going on. People are not looking, I believe, for these gurus and leaders. People are looking for people to give them permission to be themselves. And I didn't go out there wanting to do that. I just went out there just being very honest with myself. That's not easy, is it? No, you've got to reach that point where you can literally say, I'm not worried about what anybody thinks about me or what I do. And believe it or not, because you can speak to people and they will say, oh, I don't care what anybody thinks about me. But it goes very deep. That it really does. It goes back because we have been born into a society that is programmed to want to get love outside of us. That if we have this car, we'll be happy. That if we have this house, we'll be happy. That if we have this life, we'll be happy. But it doesn't work that way. It's when I'm happy, things will happen. The more you want to be seen, the less you will be. So, I didn't know what to expect, but I just was honest. And I heard Oprah Winfrey say that the greatest, I paraphrase, as she said when she collected the award, the greatest power we have is speaking our truth. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, this is going to reach a lot of hearts and minds around the world. And so we won 14 awards for Living My Illusion globally. Yeah, amazing. So was it kind of like a self-discovery? The moment you said, I'm gonna, be true to myself and say things that my ego doesn't want to hear. So was it like your journey on self-discovery? Yes, it's an ongoing battle because it's the ego versus the heart. And the ego wants to do things. And then I made The Magnificence of You, which, was it was an ego-led decision. It was made out of decisions that I made out of ego and fear, instead of coming from my instinct and out of love. And I documented that as well, because it's a journey in progress. And, what I say is, maybe listen to me very carefully, but don't watch me too close, because I'm working at it as much as anybody else is. And maybe we are here to make mistakes and take that learning into a new life. Looking back, we may say, so for example, when you said to me, when people sell their business, they may look back and think, did they make a mistake? And absolutely, I've had those thoughts. And, maybe those thoughts will still haunt me. But, you don't push yourself, on the border between challenge and support, of fear, because you can make decisions out of fear and fail.
Yeah.
So you may as well take a chance on doing what you love. And maybe if you fail at that, well then, maybe just accept that. And then ask, what is this asking me to become? So that's really the question that I've learned to ask myself is, what is this teaching me? That if everything fails, okay, what am I learning here? Because who is this teaching me who to become? And the more you listen is the more that you will see and hear things and get the inspiration of what to do next.
Yeah, that's interesting. And this self-discovery and if I may, describe it as kind of getting out of the norm, like, having a mortgage, getting that credit, buying a car every 3 years. It is the kind of illusion that's created for us that we feel that we are obliged to follow. So, so we almost go to work to live. We don't. The life becomes like almost like paying the debt that we create ourselves. This self-discovery, how did it affect your entrepreneurial side? Because you're an entrepreneur, you created a successful business, and how did it affect your entrepreneurial side? What I'm really curious about is the getting out of the norm or having the creativity. Is it something that will help the entrepreneurs, business owners?
Well, people tend to spend their money on what they value. And buying a car or buying these kind of things that you believe will make you happy are actually short-term highs. If someone saved up a lot of money and they become successful and they go and buy a Range Rover or a Ferrari because believing they've made it, well, you speak to them 6 months down the line and they say, well, that was a bad decision. It was just a short-term high. The journey that I went on was learning to not buy things to impress others, which they're not really impressed by anyway, because they're too busy wanting to impress you with what they have.
Yeah.
And to learn to invest in what I value and put that into a business. So I managed to get to a stage where I could work out by knowing what I love to do, but turning that into a service for others. Yeah, I see. Which is where my entrepreneurial journey shifted, in the respect of moving it into Vandercom films and creating documentaries about people's lives and stories that people want to tell. We tell those stories that may have never been told. And
I see.
It's an extremely powerful gift for anybody to tell their life story on film for generations to come.
Yeah. And the video is such a powerful tool. And did you say, video in regards to business, and can it be a useful tool, or if yes, how so?
Yeah, I remember saying this, talking about this many years ago, 5-6 years ago, at least, the power of video when it comes to business, because you've got YouTube, which is the second biggest search engine.
Yeah.
Where people always go to for how-to videos, and that's why my phone videos became so successful.
Yeah.
But people are impatient and they don't really want to read words on a screen anymore. They will, but if there's a video there, they'll probably click on that video for that few minutes intro that really tells them everything and does it in a way that keeps them interested and intrigued.
Yeah.
So using the power of video to communicate a message, I believe, is essential nowadays, even more so because of the increased use of online. So, what we are looking at is something that came out the other day, was video on hold. Because you've got music on hold, on the phone systems.
Yeah.
Didn't we do one for you for TTC?
I think you did, yeah. I think you did,
yeah. So yeah, video on hold for businesses. This is what I'm looking to develop, because people are waiting to join meetings. So whilst you're waiting to join that meeting, what is happening? Is it just a blank screen, or is it playing something?
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Let me interrupt you there. That's I think you're onto something really interesting, because yesterday we had a opening. Now Tuesday we had Wednesday. Apologies. Day before yesterday we had a translation challenge competition start, and we asked everyone to join 15 minutes before, because joining in Zoom can be a challenge sometimes, and we didn't want to hold up the meeting. So we asked everyone to join in 15 minutes early. And we said, what we're going to do for 15 minutes? If somebody joins in 15 minutes, so are they going to look at blank screen? So really, video on hold is a great idea, because we thought, I asked my son, I said, look, they did very nice videos of my grandson dancing on a green screen with video games. And I said, look, can we use some of this? They said, yeah. So we played my grandson dancing, he does some interesting moves and stuff. That's how we kept people while they were waiting. So I think that's a great idea. So tell me a bit more, because that's something that will be of interest to us.
It's the most powerful message in a. Someone's calling me. It's your best sales presentation within a certain frame time. Whilst people are waiting to go into their meeting, you could be showing them things about products, about your business, that triggers questions for that meeting. And it's exactly like the messages on hold that we would do. So at Vandercom, the telecommunications company, some people may think we just do mobile phones, but whilst they're on hold, they could hear that we do IT support, that we do broadband, that we do IP telephony, and they may never have known that if they hadn't have heard it on that message on hold.
Very true.
And so, whilst you're waiting to go onto a video, you're going to introduce all of these products that your business can offer people, and start asking and get them asking questions, because they, it's an opportunity that people are not really using at the moment. But I may change that.
Yes, yeah, that sounds. Definitely that will be something of interest to us, because, it's also for the better user experience. It's good for the company, but also for the user experience. While somebody is waiting 5 minutes, that 5 minutes can be it can feel a really long time, or looking at a blank screen, and that's not a good user experience. So what else can we do? How else can we use video for business? And how could your creativity come into play? Can you tell us a bit more about this?
Well, one thing that I love doing is making documentaries and winning awards, and for putting them on the likes of Amazon Prime platform. And then I thought of the idea, well, okay, because what about a documentary to tell the business stories? Because, when I was in business, in telecoms, if I was in business for 1 year or 10 years, people are skeptical, unless it's come through a personal recommendation. People are saying, well, who are you? We don't know your company brand. We know who BT are. We know who Virgin are, but we didn't, who are you? But if I turned around and said, well, I've got an award-winning documentary about my business on Amazon Prime, go and have a look, then it would have been added immediate credibility, as well as helped me to reach a much wider audience. And behind every business, there is a story. It may be about early mornings, late nights, taking huge risks that paid off, or about patient growth and investment. But telling your story and telling it well is one of the most vital ways to connect with your customers.
I love the way I love what I heard from you. Every business has a story. That's so true, isn't it? But we often, as business owners, we are so much immersed in our businesses, we are really not aware of this.
Well, everybody gets caught up in the day-to-day busyness of the business.
Yeah.
And that's why sometimes business coaches are extremely useful to have that someone who is outside to really point out the blind spots. A bit like, you wouldn't drive a car with just the winds without the rear view mirror or side mirrors.
Yeah.
And that's maybe what a business coach or that outsider can help you do, is to see your blind spots, because otherwise you get carried away in the busyness of the day-to-day operations. But having a documentary, it's because your company's story builds an emotional connection that inspires loyalty and enthusiasm. And now more than ever, I think customers choose where they shop or what they buy because of the story behind the product and the values that it embodies. So and every story has a business.
Yeah. And I can hear lots of business owners. I have many friends who have businesses. They'll say something like this: the first objection is, well, my business is so boring. I don't have a story. I know it's not true, but how do you unearth that story? I assume that is your secret weapon, I suppose, that you unearth that story from that business. Is that right?
People may think that they don't have a story. But then I know from personal experience, from doing Magnificence of You and Living My Illusion, that by going out there and just saying the honest truth about your life and what was significant about my life. No one knows who I am or didn't know who I was then. You resonate with other people who are going through the same problems, the same struggles, the same challenges. And that's why they love the story of any business, because they will resonate with the challenges, because the sleepless nights, the worrying about paying the bills. We've been there, and certainly as business owners, with 9 out of 10 successful businesses failing, I think the second business has a much higher ratio of passing, which is not mentioned. What challenges did people have to overcome? And you start unearthing that story like you would a personal documentary about someone's life. Right. You start at the beginning. I did a documentary with my father called 80 Years in 80 Minutes. And, you start at the beginning, day one, 1940. And you talk about so you would speak about in business where the ideas came from. How did you come up with the name? What is your background? What led you to do that? This is what helps people connect. Yes. And that's part of the magic, because people want to work with people that they relate to. And it's the strongest, marketing we have, which is ourselves.
Yeah, true. That's very true.
And that's who people are going to want to be connected with. People don't necessarily connect with a perfume or an airline, but they will connect with Richard Branson.
Yes, so true. And one of the examples that, do you know Daniel Priestley? I mean, I follow Dent and very closely, and he's a very sort of level-headed entrepreneur that I know. And he gives an example. Elon Musk has, 10 million followers in Instagram, but his company only have 1 million, or there's no proportion in number of people that follows Elon Musk than the company, because having faceless corporations have no interest to people. People go for the founder and they want to know the story, like you say, and connect much easily to the company that that has a face.
And I heard that interview you did with Daniel, and I recommend people to listen to it as well. yeah, it is about, what is your presence like on the internet? When people see Van der Kom films, they're seeing the face of Van der Kom films, but that's me. So I can't really be somebody who shies away in the corner and isn't a front person. Every single person is the face of their business. And so people get to know who I truly am by seeing the marketing, which is, all me doing everything. And the films that I've made about my life, and the recent comedy drama that I'm still making, which is What the Fact.
All right.
People get to see me. They've had enough of me by then.
I was curious about that. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean that's again, I'm expressing my creativity, and lockdown 1.0 back in March 2020 gave room. I think it gave birth to a lot of creativity within people, and I didn't really give people a choice. What do you do with the events outside of you? We can control what's going on inside of us, perhaps, as long as we do the work.
Yeah.
If I didn't access my love of creating, then I wouldn't have necessarily done that. But here's the thing is, no one is to ever tell you can't do something.
Yeah.
Because people would say to me I couldn't write. I thought, well, who are they? And I just went ahead and I'm writing more and more and more. And people say, oh, you get a professional. No. People say you can't edit. I'll just go and edit a film. I learned from people I edited.
Yeah.
People say, oh, well, you can't act. I've just won 4 acting awards.
Yeah.
So never learn, because this is what I believe that was, stalling me, and was listening to the advice from others. I'm not saying it's not good to listen to some advice from others, but I'm saying listening to yourself is much more important. Because have you ever made a decision and gone ahead with that decision, but knowing inside of you that it wasn't the right thing to do, and you went ahead and did it anyway? And then you look back and you say, but I knew deep down at the time that it wasn't the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But imagine if we can live from that place of deep down, that knows that is truly listening. And I say listen to me very carefully, but don't watch me too close, because I'm learning all the time that when I go against that voice inside, that it doesn't spell good news. And I have to learn a hard lesson, and a financially hard lesson, in order to learn to trust my inner knowing.
Right. No, that's very interesting. No, thanks, Joel, for sharing this. And I know it's not easy for a lot of people to share these things openly, but no, thank you for this. And going back to the video on hold for businesses and documentaries for businesses, I love what you said. Every business has a story, and I strongly believe that as business owners, we forget about that story. After a number of years, once the initial passion and everything kind of doesn't die, but running the business is hard, and after a number of years, it is so easy to forget that story. So you kind of find that story and turn it into a documentary. How would people, if listeners want to get in touch with you, what would be the best way to get in touch with you, and how will they find out what you can do for them?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with an initial conversation. Let's see, because many people may not be aware that they have a great story that will communicate on so many levels to people. But that's only because we've been sort of programmed to doubt ourselves and doubt our ability, unaware that our story would connect and resonate with millions of people. But it's also, something so enjoyable to do, to relive those kind of memories. And as soon as somebody starts, then they can start to piece together how brilliant this actually is, and how much it would serve them and their business, because it is a personal journey.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not, what we do at Vandercom is not really just about making documentaries. It is a profound journey, an experience, because we're giving people the gift of listening for a start, to hear that story, enable to communicate that story in a film.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
You know, that can be the greatest marketing tool for that company for the next 10 years.
Yeah, yeah.
And not only that, are the little corporate videos that can come off of the side of that, because we capture all of this footage. One business we're working with, they love doing the documentary idea because of the numerous other little videos that it creates. The interviews with staff, the interviews with happy clients, and then, but it also gets quite deep where you're talking about the pains of the business.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And that's what people are more likely to connect with, as well as everybody likes successes, but successes normally come out of the result of time, energy, love, hard work. And you know, that's what people want to be a part of that story. It starts with getting in touch so we can talk about that and see, you know, what we can do. We just you know, everything's on our website at vandercom.com, and people can start there and have a look. But to get the real information, yes, let's, you know, we talk to them and see and help them to understand how this can really work for them. And there's so many different things it can do. And then if it is, look, broadcasters are always looking for great new content. You know, and you know, what is your story? I mean, any story, normal regular people, that's what's interesting. Yes. That's what's really interesting, is getting behind the story of the business or of somebody's life. If it is a personal documentary that people of a certain age want to make for children and grandchildren to stay with them forever. Because what happens when those storytellers disappear or the memories fade? So it is a profound journey, but it's a wonderful experience and a very unique and special way of communicating with a much wider audience.
Great. No, thank you very much. We'll put your website and the contact details in the podcast notes, so it will be available for listeners to have access to. Joel, thank you very much for your time. And before we wrap up, is there any message that you want to give? I mean, you know, I could speak with you hours because of your experience and everything, but I'm aware of the time. And is there anything you want to add to before we wrap up?
Well, I'd love to say thank you to you for doing this podcast, because it takes the message further. And one thing, of course, people can do is translate their films and their documentaries into multiple different languages with your services and what you do, helping to. So that's where the international part of it, reaching a much wider audience, people who have an international reach. Of course, after they've made the film, it's down to you to translate it into 10 different languages, and they can reach a much wider audience by communicating with those different countries. And to leave
I'm glad you said that. Thank you. Would you say that Netflix's success is you know, because of the multilingual aspect of it? Would you? Not that I'm trying to put words into your mouth, but
it's certainly a game changer. But what's interesting about Netflix is one of their most successful shows is a Spanish TV show.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, interesting.
And it's dubbed into 17 languages.
Yeah.
And Living My Illusion, I think, is in 3 languages or 4 languages. Yeah, I can't remember. Magnificence of You is in 7 languages.
Really? Wow. Which is the language other than English that had made the biggest impact?
I think Spanish, because of my friends, and Italian, which recently in Italian. I love Italy, love Italian, my Italian friends, and so I was really pleased to have the Italian language. But it's Spanish, certainly because I was doing interviews in the Spanish language. So that increased the views, certainly.
Right.
And Portuguese, I think, is becoming very popular for Magnificence of You, because the actress Caroline, who's in that, she's from Brazil.
Oh, right, yeah.
And yeah, the Italian one, French and German, Romanian, because we filmed in Romania.
I see. Yeah. Everything is so global nowadays, isn't it? There's, there's a global aspect. They say, I mean, the world is a small village.
Well, absolutely, and that's why doing something like, so when business people come to me for business and they want that translated into different languages, then they go to you, and then can access just so many different people, but not just so many different people in, we're talking about the globe, but even if they've just got a UK business, well, there's 300 languages spoken in London.
Yeah.
I think I heard it was 300. So it's very beneficial. But imagine the much wider audience it gets to people, because having an award-winning documentary about your business on Amazon Prime is a great start. You are miles ahead of many businesses.
Yeah.
If you can do that, and you can do that working with Vandercom Films. But then think about this. Spanish is the second biggest spoken language, I understand, or maybe
I think the third one.
It's definitely up there.
Yeah.
What the top languages spoken in the world are?
Definitely within first 5. Spanish population in internet is I think it's the third or the fourth, but it's definitely within first 5. I mean, by covering 10 languages, you cover about 80% of internet population. So that's so you don't have to do like 100 languages to cover, by 10 languages, you pretty much cover 80% of the internet population. The coverage goes immense. And I mean, we know from businesses, don't have to think of Apple or Uber or, Airbnb. I know from the fact that from our customers, the ones that sell to 25 countries is because they have 25 languages. That's why they sell to those countries. But anyway, I wasn't here to pitch for my business, but it's the fact.
Yes, and it works nicely hand in hand, you see. So Vandercom Films and TTC, we translate this. This is an amazing kind of partnership or affiliation, if you like, because people then can take it to a new level of translating into different languages.
Yeah.
And if I was to leave on one last thing, I would say really to people from experience is to follow what you love, and that voice is communicating to you, because you can fail at doing something you don't like. So you may as well take a chance on something you love.
Yeah. No, thank you. That's very insightful. And Joel, thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it, and hope to catch up with you soon. Once this pandemic is over, we must get together for coffee.
Absolutely. I look forward to that.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Bear with me 1 second. I'll just stop the live stream if you bear with me. And this is the end of our live stream. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let us know. Leave your comments below, and we'd love to hear from you.